Okay, folks. Thank you for giving us your time this evening. I know we're into spring and getting closer to summer. It feels like winter. It's kind of all three seasons at once. Thank you for attending the Community Recreation Space Project public information meeting for the Summer Village of Bondiss. My name's Brad McDonald. I'm with Municipal Planning Services. We're a planning services provider based out of Edmonton that works with summer villages, small towns, villages, other municipalities that need just a little bit of support with planning and development questions. We've been helping this summer village through this project, and we're just excited to give you some information about what's been done to date, what this project is all about, and what some of the next steps are. As part of this, we're hoping to get some feedback from community members to help refine this community recreation space project. If there's some minor details or thoughts that you have along the way, we're happy to either hear them tonight or there's some contact information that we'll be providing at the end if you want to reach out and let us know what you think about this overall project. Sorry, just one second. Excellent. So we'll get into a bit of an outline of what we'll be discussing tonight. Again, my name's Brad McDonald with Municipal Planning Services. If you have questions along the way, feel free to throw them into the chat. We'll be talking about the purpose of what this project is and what it's hoping to do for the Summer Village. We'll share a little bit of information about Skeleton Lake and Bondiss in general. We'll give you a bit of a profile and some information about the subject site is selected for this project, what it looks like, what some of the development considerations and constraints and opportunities are with it. We will look at the results of a desktop assessment that we recently completed with CPP Environmental, who's done work in Bondiss in the past. And we'll kind of go over what some of the environmental and surrounding development considerations that we found are. We'll talk about what the work we completed to date has been and what some of the final steps of this project are. And as part of this, we'll kind of go over and provide a bit of a broad overview of what the provincial approvals look like in order to get some of the work done at the end of the day. And the next steps so that you as well as council and administration have an understanding of what's to come here in the near future. So this project is something that's been in the works for a few years now with Summer Village Council and Administration. Um, Council and Administration have identified a need for having a more formalized community recreation space on the lake. Right now, the Summer Village has several reserve parcels, public lands parcels that are owned by the Summer Village. But in terms of their overall use and development, there isn't as much as perhaps could be or as are in other summer villages. The space needed to have a place for people to safely gather, um, play, swim, etc., right adjacent to the lake. So having a dedicated park space where community members can meet, kids can play together and touch the water and just enjoy the lake atmosphere in an area that is something that the Summer Village has as their own. As part of this, in order to do this, the Summer Village has recognized that there is a need to engage and play by the rules that the province sets out for using shoreline areas. This includes having authorizations from the province to do things like shoreline modifications, to do vegetation management, and to essentially occupy the space that is the shoreline, the lands below the ordinary high water mark up to the water's edge. So for the summer village to plan, program, develop, and use that area, there is some provincial approvals that are needed to seek authorization for. Also, part of this whole purpose is once we've kind of conveyed all this information. We're hoping to gather some feedback from community members so that everyone has an understanding of what the overall intent of this is, and if there's any way in which this can be approved upon, additional concepts added to it, that this be all included together so that it has the benefit of um, uh, including community feedback as part of it. So just briefly about Skeleton Lake, there is a ton of information that we were able to gather as the community's planning services provider when we prepared the Summer Village's municipal development plan and land use bylaw. We were able to gather quite a nice little profile of the lake itself in terms of its total area, recognizing and being able to pull some information together for community members as to how big the overall watershed area is. So all the lands that drain towards the lake, being able to provide a bit of a picture of um, the sphere of influence that the lake has on the surrounding landscape, and Bondiss itself, where it situates within that area. So I don't feel like we really need to get into the level of detail of explaining Skeleton Lake to folks in Bondiss, but we just wanted to share just a little bit of information about the overall scale of the lake, how much of the shoreline Bondiss possesses. It's actually quite a small little area when you factor in the other summer village and the county and the crown land surrounding it. And we also recognize too, as part of this project, that the lake levels historically have fluctuated over the last few years, with some notable decreases occurring in the 2000s. And just historically, as we've noted in performing some survey work and looking at historic land titles, the shoreline of the lake is not something that's entirely set in stone, I'm sure, as everyone knows. So, as part of doing the Summer Village's municipal development plan and land use bylaw a few years ago, we engaged with the Summer Village and CPP Environmental, a um, uh, environmental consulting firm that does a lot of shoreline work in Alberta. And as part of the MDP and land use bylaw project, we were able to incorporate within it having CPP come out and do a shoreline assessment of the summer village. And this involved professional biologists coming out in a kayak, paddling the lake shore, walking the lake shore, just visiting the community in general, having a look at the shoreline area, and using their own professional observations, but also research on the back end side of the summer village, creating an assessment of the shoreline area. And things that they looked at and things they were able to identify as part of this included where the wetlands are in the community, where the major riparian areas are on the lake, where terrestrial habitat areas exist, and where the watercourses leading into and out of the lake are located. Um, Sorry, just one second here. I have to um, just pause for 1 second, just to plug in my computer. Perfect. Thank you. So they were able to identify the wetlands, the riparian areas, the terrestrial habitat areas, and the watercourses. And the other major component to their project that helped to form some of the policies and the regulations in the Summer Villages planning documents was that they were able to identify areas where high disturbance, moderate disturbance, and low disturbance um, are located along the shoreline area. And these high, moderate, and low disturbance areas relate to how the shoreline is impacted by human activity, development activity, recreational activity. And in most summer villages, particularly in ones that are developed along the lake shore, it is very common to see areas of high disturbance and moderate disturbance. Just simply having a dock or having access from a property to the lake is enough to just note some moderate disturbance levels. So none of this is terribly surprising. The Summer Village does have some low disturbance areas as well, where development is less common in those particular sites. But th this was able to paint us a bit of a picture as to where some existing disturbance is are located within the summer village, and being able to know where some intact areas of natural habitat are located.
Hey Brad, I just have a
Mhm.
question about that last slide.
Yes,
Um,
Ava.
because the area that we want to clear the shorebed there at the existing beach, because it's a high disturbance, is there something that the province looks at and says like, hey, like it's already a high disturbance, maybe we shouldn't. Have you ever seen that where they do that because it is a high disturbance area?
Um, I, 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 I wouldn't say I've seen that. If anything, almost the opposite. To say an area that is already disturbed is where we were going to, um, you know, continue to disturb.
Right.
Um, that is perhaps a better location to have, um, like a community recreation area, rather than identifying it in an area that is largely untouched.
Right.
To be able to continue to preserve that, and not essentially remove a green area and turn it yellow.
Mm.
You would have a yellow area that either would stay yellow or stay high. And I think it's worth noting too that these don't correspond to any official records of anything. It just helps to really kind of paint um, where the shoreline has been disturbed or is not disturbed currently. So I think in talking with CPP Environmental and their conversations that they've had with the province, having this identified in an area that is already disturbed, that isn't going to further um, do
Hinder.
much further damage to the lake, is probably a better thing than identifying, a newly undisturbed area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
So April kind of led us into a bit of some information about how we and sort of how the Summer Village came about selecting the site that is kind of being presented to you here today. The areas in green on this map are reserve parcels that are owned by the Summer Lake, sorry, by the Summer Village, adjacent to the lake and near the lake. These are titled areas that were dedicated as part of subdivisions in many years ago, and include um, things like environmental reserve, municipal reserve, and in the older cases, they're just simply titled as reserve parcels. And what the municipality can and can't do on these lands is established in the Municipal Government Act. So in the Municipal Government Act, it indicates that environmental reserve parcels should primarily be used to for natural purposes, to continue local ecosystem importances. And whereas municipal reserve parcels are your areas that would be for community recreation, parks, playgrounds, that sort of thing. So we wanted to paint a bit of a picture here to show you that there are a few different options along the lake. But in terms of identifying an area that has um, a continuous large area of potential for community recreation. Summer Village Council and Administration have basically identified the area that is the current boat launch area, a little further to the northwest in the Summer Village, identified in yellow here on the map. The property itself is kind of an oddly shaped one. It, as much as it has a large contiguous body adjacent to the lake, it also has arms or tendrils that go a little further west and a little further east along the shoreline that separate residential properties from the lake. And while that is part of the titled area of the property, it almost looks like a little ghost with flaily arms. It's well, what we're looking at for the purposes of this recreation area is just the larger parcel that includes there's some open space, the boat launch area, and some natural treat area. Right now, on its title, it's identified as community reserve. It's a reserve parcel, lot 18R. That R indicates reserve. But because it's noted as community reserve on title, it indicates that it has been intended for community use since its incorporation back many, many years ago. So this is a bit of a ortho photo or aerial photo of the subject site. If for anyone not familiar with it, I'm sure most folks are. It includes a boat launch, access road, the boat launch itself, open space and playground, and pretty significant little natural terrestrial area, as CBP Environmental calls it in their shoreline assessment. But it is a significant little tree stand adjacent to the water. The titled area itself is 1.88 hectares, but what we're looking at is about half of that at 0.9 hectares. So this is what has been identified off Old Timers Drive as being a site to have some community recreation development adjacent to the water so that folks have a place to play and swim within the summer village. So as we look just a little bit closer to the edge of the water, there is a difference between the edge of the water and the ordinary high water mark. And there's also a pretty significant difference between that and the titled area of the property itself, shown in black. Um, any activity that were to happen below the ordinary high water mark and above the edge of the water requires provincial approval in the form of a license of occupation and Water Act approval. So in order for the summer village to do any vegetation clearing or maintenance, to do any shoreline modification or to bring in some material so that it's a little bit of a nicer spot to sit and relax and enjoy sunny summer days. The approvals are needed um, to work within that area. So recognizing that everything above that um, within the titled area of the property above the ordinary high water mark, that can be done by the municipality within the municipality's own development rules and regulations. But to work within that area shown in turquoise or a bit of a toothpaste color, as presented by CPP Environmental, um, would require provincial approval. So that is the area that is being looked at primarily for um, work by the Summer Village to have a community recreation area. So in looking at this site, this site that includes the open space, the boat launch area, and the treat area, we, as the Summer Villages Planning Services provider, had a good deep dive into what the community's planning documents and other available information sources have to say about this property and what you're looking to do in the first place. And so we had a deep look into the Summer Village of Bondiss's intermunicipal development plan with Athabasca County. We had a look at the municipal development plan, the land use bylaw, the reserve lands bylaw, storage of boat lifts and docks on municipal reserves policy, and the Summer Village's more temporary docks and mooring process. I will note that in the intermunicipal development plan with the county, that is a shared planning document between the two municipalities. It does indicate that any major development work by one municipality will be shared and referred to the other, not so that there can be the opportunity to challenge or uh, overrule or anything like that, but so that that information can be shared and they be given the opportunity to provide some feedback. So as part of this, we'll reach out to Athabasca County just to let them know what the intentions are at the end of the day, and just give them the heads up as for good intermunicipal communication. There's policies in the Summer Village's new municipal development plan that indicate that community spaces will be developed for the purposes of ensuring that there is safe and equitable access to community amenities for all residents. So all of this is to date consistent with the Summer Village's policies and regulations. And we will ensure that as we go along here, that it's kept in accordance with the communication policies and the Summer Village's intermunicipal development plan with the county. We had a look too at some adjacent land uses, largely surrounded by existing residential developments. The site itself has great access and egress, having a significant area where the site can be accessed off Old Timers Drive. Uh, the lake depth of bathymetry is sufficient for having swimming and other water-based recreation activities off the shore. We had a look at some of the existing uses and improvements on the site, and there aren't many. There is a playground site, there's an open space area. I think in a picture or two, we've seen some picnic tables down by the water. But in order to continue doing that, the Summer Village is recognizing that there needs to be those provincial approvals. So to do any uses and improvements to the site would have to be consistent with those approvals. Um, we had a look at the environmental sensitive areas data that managed by the province to see if there was any indication that this site or this area was noted for having any environmentally sensitive areas, and none were noted. We had a look at the province's merged wetland inventory data. And while it does seem to suggest that there is wetlands in this area, the site observations undertaken by CPP Environmental as part of the shoreline assessment confirm that there aren't any wetlands on the site as much as just there is a riparian area between the property and the lake itself. And in terms of site vegetation, the CPP environmental report just noted the significant stands of trembling aspen, that there's some prickly rose and buffalo berry located on the site. We also had a look into the province's historic resources information. And as part of that, it indicates whether any known or if there are areas with potential to contain historic resources. And while it's not a perfect scientific tool, there aren't any noted on the site or in the immediate area. So we don't have any concerns at this moment with doing any work that would uncover historic resources. If historic resources are noted on the site, there is processes that the province requires all developers, whether municipalities or private developers, to undertake to ensure that those historic resources are managed properly. But right now, there aren't any flags that would suggest that preliminary or desktop work needs to be done to assess the historic value of the site. And we also had a look at the province's flood hazard mapping. We had a look at databases of inactive and landfills and if there's any setbacks, and other environmental information. And there isn't anything that would suggest to us that what the Summer Village is potentially looking at doing with some shoreline work and developing a community recreation space on the lake here in this location would be hampered by any of the following or sorry, any of the preceding or any other sources of information that could be available to the Summer Village. So work completed so far as part of this. I have highlighted in red here the Summer Village's planning documents, and I'm only highlighting that because of the benefit that by doing those concurrently with the shoreline assessment prepared by CPP Environmental back in 2022, that shoreline assessment that's just noted below that. I'll mention that in a little bit more detail here in a second, but that is something that would have been done as part of this process. And because it was done and done well by CPP, the province has had a look at it already as part of some preliminary assessments of what the Summer Village is looking to do, and they've accepted it as the basically the authoritative assessment of the shoreline of Bondiss. So that work, because it was already done, is something that doesn't have to get done now, or it wasn't something that the Summer Village had to tack on as an additional expense to do this. In the fall, we were able to do a survey of the subject site, so to identify specifically where the ordinary high water level is of the, oh, sorry, ordinary high water mark of the lake is, where the edge of water is, just to be able to specifically identify where the area of vegetative maintenance would have to be done along the lake. Um, as part of any applications to the province. So the survey work has been done. So we were able to include that in some of these maps. And by doing so, we're able to identify that area of vegetation management. Um, CPP, with their contacts at the province, have shared all the work that they've done and the survey work that's been done with the province to just get their preliminary assessment of what additional work may be needed, and if they have any additional hoops or um, boxes that will need to be checked as part of this. And I will say to date, it's been pretty great. CPP knows this process inside out, and they've been able to kind of get the province on board already, to the point where they are effectively ready to submit applications to the province on the Summer Village's behalf. But we just need to kind of rein in the horse here a little bit and get through identifying some community feedback and have those discussions with Athabasca County and then finalize the basic concepts that need to go into the application. So that those discussions with the province have been done, and we've completed as part of our work that desktop assessment of the site and some background research to make sure that there aren't any development constraints or considerations that really need to be factored in here, or that might cause the concept to be changed to factor in some environmental or development considerations. What we need to do going forward from today, if we were hoping to hear from community members, if you have any ideas or feedback about this project, having a community recreation area along the beachfront of adjacent to the boat launch. Um, Anything that we hear today or in the weeks to come here, we'll catalog into a report for council and share it with council, so that when we go back with them to discuss some refinements to the application and putting together a site plan for the community recreation usage of the site, we'll be able to factor in community feedback on this. And then we will take that to the county and just share it with the other municipalities in the area, just to let them know what's on the go, and if they have any feedback or things that they want to share, that we can incorporate that as well. And then we'll be looking at submitting applications for provincial approval. And that looks like this. Um, So currently, to do any vegetation management or shoreline modification, if someone went out and started plucking grasses and throwing in sand along the beachfront, they're in contravention of the Water Act of the province. And to do things like that, to have a beach, to have a to do development or to do activity in that particular area of a lake, requires a license of occupation. And that license of occupation is effectively a long-term agreement with the province for the management of a shoreline area. Some license of occupation aren't adjacent to a shoreline. They could be on Crown land and other locations as well. Some are for things like stormwater management or for sanitary collection or other things. But in this case, the license of occupation would be for the shoreline area to do vegetation management and shoreline modifications. So that license of occupation is what Summer Village is going to have to apply for, as well as Water Act approval to do this work. Anything above that pink, purple line the ordinary high water mark within the titled area of the um, site, the subject site that we were looking at. The summer village can continue with, as long as they're in keeping with their own bylaws and processes for development. And as part of that, they would need to consider, any uses that are being done have to be in keeping with the policies in the Summer Villages Municipal Development Plan and the rules and regulations in the Summer Villages Land Use Bylaw. So it wouldn't just be a free go that where you could effectively do whatever the Summer Village wanted. There are rules and regulations surrounding not being able to park recreational vehicles on park sites, rules and regulations about removal of trees and other vegetation, when that can be done and how replacement has to occur. So the Summer Village would have to follow its own rules and regulations on those topics. So as I mentioned, the provinces had a look at the shoreline assessment already, and the survey work already done. So we just need to get to a point where we can support the Summer Village in submitting applications for Water Act approval, license of occupation and application approval, and being able to take into consideration the feedback of community members so that we can help the Summer Village design and put together a concept for this entire site. So after today, we're hoping to get some feedback from community members either today or in the weeks to come. We'll prepare a what we heard report for council's consideration that detail all the feedback that we receive. We'll create that site plan and concept based on the direction of council and the feedback of community members. Uh, we'll send that we'll initiate that referral process with the county, so that they are kept in the loop on what's going on here. And we'll submit at the end of the day, hopefully in the next several weeks or coming months, those applications to the province for their approval. So with that having been said, I will just turn things over so that folks can unmute themselves if anyone has any questions or just wanted to raise any comments. We've again have recorded this, so we'll be able to go back and hear those questions and feedback again later on. And if anyone was, either arrived late or had to leave early, we'll have this up on YouTube as a link on the Summer Villages website for anyone to tune in later at their convenience. So with that, if anyone has any questions or comments, I'd be happy to hear them.
This would be a great time for anybody to ask any questions that they want now while you have this guy on the screen with you.
I, and my phone number is up on the last slide here. If anyone has any, if you want to send me your comments via email or via phone, happy to do that at your convenience as well. Happy to have those dialogues in the days to come. I'm sure folks may, wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning with a question that they wish they had asked. Anything that we receive from now until the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we will be sure to include it in the What We Heard report. April, did you have anything that you wanted to add just to conclude or?
Just that I'm super stoked for this. It's going to be a nice area, and hopefully the concept that we have in mind will work. And I think our village will really enjoy having a beach area where we can fit more than one chair down there, and we can have multiple families down there with all the kids playing. I think this is going to be a fantastic project. It's been 4 years now in the making that we've been trying to do this. So we are super excited for this one. This is going to be a stellar area.
Sorry, I do see one hand up here. Um,
Hey, yeah, it's Wayne Carey. Can you hear me okay, Brad?
I can hear you. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, April and Brad. I joined a little late, so just was curious if I think pretty understand the process to to go through to get permission to do the upgrades on the beach. Do we have a concept of April of like what's being proposed? I think one of my biggest questions would be the accessibility to the boat launch today can is already an issue. Multiple times I've had to back my trailer right from the roadway all the way down. So just because the people parking um, up against, kind of in the turnabout there so that you can't get in there and turn your truck and boat around. So just like, is that something that comes next? Like, is the feedback that Brad's looking for is just around the changes to the waterfront and then comments or feedback come later? Just curious of the process.
No, that's great comments. We will. I've got that written down here. As part of this, before we submit to the province, we'll be working with council to just put together a site plan of what the site, some improvements may look like to the site. So to increase
Yeah,
safety and accessibility, and knowing that if we create a destination for folks that folks are going to want to come there. So how do you manage that? We'll
for
put that
sure.
together as well. So that's a great thing to think.
Yeah, like I'm all in favor of having a nice place for people to come. It is a great spot to swim, but like just the boat launch traffic and interacting closely with families and kids in that area. It's just something that we're gonna need to just keep in mind and safety.
Yep.
Like trying to back down a 25-foot boat from the roadway is challenging, and just having that more action and more things in the way will
Perfect.
need to be considered. Yeah, definitely happy to hear that we're going to try and find a way to make this work. So it's good.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, Ryan, you had a comment?
Yeah, thanks. It sounds like you guys done a ton of work, so appreciate that for sure and looking forward to it. Um, I'm assuming it was kind of a natural choice, that area, because it was kind of a beach already and people had done it. I was just wondering if there's any other areas explored. Kind of touching on what Wayne just said there. There's a lot of boat traffic. I know when I was swimming at the beach last year, there was oils and gas on the water, that we hope to avoid, but happens. And just because it is so close to the boat launch, yeah, what kind of considerations, I guess, happen there, planning this?
Um, I can't speak for council's basically preference for this site, but I will say that just looking at obviously being adjacent to water is probably pretty key. So that effectively eliminated a lot of sites that weren't adjacent to the water. Being able to have access to a local roadway in front of it was key as well. But th this site particularly for me having a look at it, if I were to just randomly select a location in the summer village, um, it has that larger contiguous area that has the possibility for other use. So in addition to having almost like a ready beach area to go, it has additional land space to accommodate other park and recreation uses. So are there other sites that could be developed
Yeah, so I'll
instead?
stop you. I think they got
Yeah,
the right site. I'm not
yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying that. Like you're right, that park there and everything's open and it's a great area. I was just wondering, like even the area to the south, like where everybody just has their docks, you know, they'd be away from the boat traffic and it'd be around the corner. Like I just was wondering if anything like that had ever been considered. And maybe that's more to the council and like I said, it's the old one was kind of the or where we're talking about is a natural area and I'm happy with it. I'm just the boat traffic and pollution is just something to be considered.
So Ryan,
Go
that
ahead.
area used to actually be all beach. So it was all sand in there with a couple of trees growing in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just it hasn't been upkept. It's pretty much all sand under there. We used to come around when we were in Shoreline, we'd go across and sit on the beach and play. So that was where we went instead of Miawatha. I did look at around the corner there, but it's all rock. And then
Oh,
we would get the wind coming from down the or from up the lake. Whereas right now, if we stay on the side that we're looking at, it's going to also protect from the winds and stuff. We have moved last year, we moved the dock over to the side of the beach so that it would keep the kids from going running out into that boat launch. Uh,
yeah.
And then we put the swimming area on that side of the dock so that nobody would go over there. Last year it seemed to work pretty good. There wasn't kids being in there. Weren't having to watch kids to like yank them out of the way and stuff like that. The oils and the gases, yes, I understand that, but I really I don't
Yeah, it's a boat
about
launch. Yeah.
that. There is a beachfront in Labonte, but again, there's not like really parking spaces there. We'd be parking in front of people's places, which I know they wouldn't be happy with. There's a potential for people going through residence lots and stuff, so we didn't want that there.
Hmm.
There is the area, the marshland that's actually on the other side in front of like where the park is there at Heritage Park, but we would have to dredge, and those are huge permits, huge amounts of money. And because I think that one is going to be considered a riparian area because there's like nesting birds and stuff in there, we couldn't even attempt to clean that up. Because that used to be a beach as well, but it's too far gone to natural to do that. Whereas if we do this one, we have to maybe cut, I think, three larger trees and pull out a bunch of shrubs and some grass and some stinky oxeye weeds or whatever they're called, and then just get the permits to allow us to pull the weeds from the sand so that we can have that sand there for the kids and stuff. But um when I first put this project idea to council, I did really think about the different areas that were possible or plausible to have a spot, and it just seemed like the best spot, to be honest with you.
No, perfect. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Great. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Hi, it's Alicia. I'm just wondering, like, I know everyone's worried about the boats and stuff, so could we have like a blocked off swim area? Like, you know how they put the buoys and stuff that they're not supposed to, boats and stuff aren't supposed to go past and stuff? Is that something we could
We
look
do.
into?
We have those, yeah. So we ordered a whole bunch more so we can make a more solid buoy line. Last year we only put up a couple of them, but we did get some bigger ones and a whole bunch more smaller ones. So this year it'll be a whole continuous line, but we do have a roped off area that goes from the edge of the dock out to the corner of the little islet or inlet or whatever it's called there. So it is a blocked off area, so no boats can go in there. And because we've moved the dock over to the beach side, it stops the kids from going on to the boat launch.
Awesome, perfect.
I just have a question about the parking, like, with the additional people coming, what is the parking going to look like? So I know on busy weekends, like there's no parking down there at all.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a big thing. I hear this is an issue quite often. I see it. Unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do. We've been asking people to, if they're within walking distance or if they have a second driver, if they can take their trailers and trucks back home. We've asked shoreline residents when they come over to bring their boats if they can have a second driver to take their truck and trailers back over to shoreline. So we're trying to like get people to do that to lessen it. We're hoping that although we know that there'll be outsiders coming from outside the village, we're hoping that um maybe after one summer it'll cool down, and because it won't be as big as Miwatha, that they won't come as much. Um, but the parking, it's hard. We don't have the space to make more parking. Um, but maybe this is something we can work with Brad on and see if there might be an alternative solution in another spot for parking, like maybe potentially
Okay.
getting a couple spaces from the golf course or something.
Or maybe extending the parking lot there a little bit, making some modifications to it, or
We can't extend it because there is a park and there is a gazebo there. So we can't move it, and then we have to cut down all those big pine trees. And we don't want to push it any more forward towards the lake because we want to keep that little bit of green space in there. And it helps to protect the area from like the winds and stuff like that and like eroding the area.
It might be a deterrent for people outside the village.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's Wayne here again. I think it's critical. Like we need to be able to maintain the ability to launch the boat. Like that's what that space is for. And so, like, what if you go back to the map? Like, there's an area when you get up on top that's kind of open, isn't there, between the back cabins and Old Timers Lane there, just directly across the road from the green space? Is there not an open area there?
There is another green space across the road.
Like I just like, is there options to extend some parking across the road? Like what happens is that whole area gets clogged and you can't launch a boat safely. And then people are parking all along the ditches and stuff. So I just think that, and everybody drives their side by sides down and parks them in the corner by the trees, which is where is the space you need to be able to turn your truck around to be able to drive down without having to back all the way down. Is there an option across the road is that Summer Village land?
The green space that's across the road from the boat launch. That's the one you're
Yeah,
talking.
like if you go directly across the road from this parcel.
That's Birch Crescent, the green space there. I don't think that because it's a green space or like a reserve land, I don't think I'd have to check with Kim, but I don't know if we're allowed to put parking on there.
That's a
think
big area up there, right?
Yeah, but it's already like it's a designated reserve or
Yeah,
park,
I don't know.
whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't think parking is allowed to be as one of the permitted uses for it. So we wouldn't be able to
We could
like,
check that. It'll
yeah.
be something to check into. I mean, we're applying for permits to change the waterfront. It's just parking is I think is like the
Oh,
biggest concern
absolutely.
here.
Yeah,
And
sorry.
this is a boat launch, initially, and then access to the park there. So it's just, there used to be a big tree in the middle and you used to drive around the tree with your boat, and then that got taken out. But now everybody just parks along there. So I think it's just going to be a challenge to maintain the space for launching a boat and have people be able to come here with their vehicles. So like that's a large area, isn't it, Brad? I call it kind of, I guess, to the north.
Yeah, across the street. I
East there.
will say that on reserve parcels, unless it's identified as environmental reserve, there can be parking facilities included as part of them. If you just think about any soccer fields or
Yeah,
uh, sports fields in Edmonton or Spruce Grove or anywhere like that, they're going to have parking. So it's not outside the realm of possibility to have a parking area within a reserve parcel or a park area, or on another one for the purposes of supporting a more populated
right. Yeah,
community
I don't know,
space.
just something to think
Yeah,
about because there is a big space there.
yeah. So we'll take that back to council and
Yeah,
um,
yeah, for sure.
look at and see how we can help ensure the safety essentially at the end of the day.
Yeah, safety is one thing, but it's like accessibility to the boat launch
Yeah.
is kind of something that we need to be able to. I think we would want to maintain that. Maybe I'm offside. I don't know. It's
Oh no, like the boat launch is not changing. Like we're not doing any changes to that. We just want to make some sand and a sandy area.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure. No, I'm not. I'm happy for all of those changes. I just know that like the nicer you make it, the more people are going to come, and then it's a challenge today. So we just
oh
need to
yeah,
figure out a way
absolutely.
to manage the people and the parking.
Yeah.
So
We
that's
are
what I was thinking. If you could blow across the road and have parking up there,
Mhm.
that would mitigate a whole bunch of the issues of people parking in the ditch and not being able to drive through there. Even Old Timers
At
Road
least
gets
something to
pretty
look at.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Hi there. It's
Hi.
Danielle Sear.
Yes.
I was just wondering, how much extra space are we gaining of beach? I think with the picture, it's a little kind of hard to tell. Like, are we going to be able to put 8 chairs instead of two? Like, what are we looking at as far as like how much beach are we gaining here?
In terms of the approval process for with the province, it is essentially just it's a pretty small area. It it would be below the pink line that is shown on the map on the screen here,
Yeah,
down to the water's edge. But above that, if the summer village was clearing, some additional grasses and shrubs and whatever to bring things up a little bit higher, that is something that they could consider as well. But just to make a spot for 2 or 3 chairs and to deal with the vegetation in the shoreline right up to the water to the point where you might want to put your feet in the water. That's part of what this whole process is in order to be able to do that with the province. So above that, I think the Summer Village could potentially be looking at, you know, extending that up a little bit further back so that there is, some rows behind the folks directly in front of the water.
yeah.
But in terms of,
And
east,
about
west,
how wide are you going?
sorry,
How about how wide are you planning on going? Like,
like to
not
the left and to the
necessarily
right.
back, but uh, you know, the width.
I think sorry, I think we've got that on
And
little
maybe I
scale.
missed it in the in your
Yeah,
presentation. So does it go just where it's all turquoise?
just that would be the purpose of the for the application to the province.
Okay,
So not a terribly large area in the first place, but this just isn't a terribly large area in the first place to begin with.
right. So if you're coming, the only way to access that is to walk down like where the boat launch is to access this? No, April?
There's it where the parking is,
Yeah.
there is an actual path that goes like to the other side of the beach, but you can use that path to access that as
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Oh,
But
okay.
you don't have to actually walk right beside the boat launch. You
Oh,
you can come down, go beside the dock, and then go onto the beach, but you can also go through the trees there,
mm-hmm.
path that you'll be able to get to to the beach from there.
Okay. I guess we only just launch boats there. I haven't really paid enough attention
It's
to
a cool
know.
little trail, and it actually goes
Yeah.
around, and it'll take you out back to the park area. So it's
Oh,
pretty neat.
okay. Okay. Oh, that sounds good. And I think that's just where like the whole concern with the parking and all that, because are you going to have not only like, is this public? Essentially, anybody could come here.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We don't own the waterfront, so we can't tell somebody that's out. That's not a
No, fair enough. But is it like going to have a big sign and it'll say,
nope, nope,
okay, no signage? Okay.
nope. That's why this presentation was sent out just to Bondiss residents. It wasn't sent
Yeah.
out to outlying communities and stuff because we don't want to advertise that we have this. Um,
Okay.
although we have to do all these approvals and talk with Athabasca and communities and stuff like that. We didn't want to advertise it to
Fair enough.
mitigate maybe some of that.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think that's another concern, more traffic. Are we going to have that
Yeah.
issue? We already have that. Certain weekends of the summer are busy. Most of the time during the week, not so bad, but okay, thank you.
Maybe your sign just says park closed
Yeah.
I
or
mean,
Come back next year.
toxic spill, please stay away.
algae blooms too big to
Yeah.
swim.
Yeah. Good. Are there any other questions? Again, I will put up my contact info so that if anyone has any questions via email or you want to give me a call, feel free to reach out. I've been taking down via notes here the comments that we received thus far. But again, we're recording this, so if you or your neighbors were late arriving, or if you want to share it out to your neighbors so they can have a look at, we'll have that on YouTube for the Summer Village to share out in the very near future here. Well, I'm not hearing anyone, so maybe we can conclude for the evening. Again, Brad McDonald with Municipal Planning Services. Thank you for everyone for giving us your time this evening. And I look forward to hearing from you, but also sharing the comments with council and getting us to the point where we can put together the last little bits of work here to submit for applications. So with that, I will end the meeting. Have a great night, everyone, and thanks for giving us your time.
Thank you so much, Brad. Appreciate it.
Thanks, April. Thanks, Brad.